As we all know, no comparison, no harm. In terms of photography, no comparison, no difference. When the photos you take look very ordinary, you can try to use some tips to make them more eye-catching. In this video, Blue Lake Photography will focus on lighting, scenes, and cell phone settings to provide 3 kinds of contrast tips that can be easily used when taking photos, which will make your food photos more appealing. Let's hurry up and take a look. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your little bell to get more information on the latest mobile photography for free. Let's start by roughly setting up a common scene. Lay the wood grain paper flat on the table. Clamp the clad grain background on the large T-stand first. Then move it to the back of the table and adjust the position of the background according to the viewfinder of the phone. After placing container, simply put a few red peppers. Check how it looks on the phone screen, and, if necessary, adjust the direction, height, position, and angle of the viewfinder as appropriate. As always, place a softbox on each side in order to light the subject evenly. One important step here is to remember to turn off the indoor light. We already explained the effect of daylight lamps on photos last week, so if you haven't watched the tutorial video, please go back and review it again. So far, the photos taken directly with the phone look like this. It seems to be fine, but the main subject is not very prominent. In other words, it's rather bland visually. If you want to make the photo more eye-catching, you can start with the first contrast tip. In previous videos, we've talked about the order of visual attention. In the same picture, the brighter area would draw attention more intensely, so we first turn off the softbox on the right and take it aside, while slightly moving the softbox on the left to let the light shine mainly on the red pepper. If necessary, you can use reflectors to do shading or fill light. In this way, you can use the light to increase the brightness of the places you want to present and reduce the brightness of other unimportant places, thus achieving the effect of making the main subject more prominent. All adjustments are done relatively. When the brightness of the main subject is higher, the surrounding environment will be lower compared with the very beginning. You can easily reach the purpose of making the main subject more prominent by adjusting the position of light exposure. However, if you are not so sensitive to the brightness of the light or are not very skilled in light control, you can also try the second contrast tip. If we don't change the light, we can also adjust the scene to highlight the subject. In previous videos, we've briefly explained the basis of color theory. If you forget it, you can go back and review it again. Now, let's go back to the way of lighting we mentioned before. The color scheme of the whole scene seems to be more brown and gray, so the main subject won't stand out in this scene. Since red pepper itself has a warm color, if we want the main subject to be noticed at first, we can change the background to a cool color. That is, the color on the opposite side of the chromatic circle. Compared with the original one, with the same subject, the visual attention of the photo is stronger when using contrasting colors. Last but not least, if you're really not good at lighting and scene setting, there is still one last way. The third contrast tip is: if the first 2 contrast tips are a bit difficult for you, you can try the contrast of in and out of focus. Let's switch back to the original background. In our previous tutorials, we have talked about the 3 techniques of bokeh. If you have watched them, there will be no problem understanding this. But here, if we tap the screen to focus on the red pepper, the effect of bokeh is not so obvious, mainly because all the objects are in the same focal plane, and the distance between the object and the lens is also very close to each other. If you cannot use the physical characteristic to create the bokeh effect, You can only do it through the smartphone algorithm of the cell phone software. If your phone can create different aperture effects through a smart algorithm, you can still get the bokeh even the hardware of your phone has limitations. If your phone doesn't have this function like the one we use, you can only achieve it through post-production retouching that's compared bokeh effect after retouching with the phone. When you take photos in the future, you can use these 3 contrast tips to make the photo more enhanced. Phone photography at home. Have you learned it? If you have any questions about taking pictures or arranging props, please leave us a message and we will make it into a tutorial video to reply. It's not hard to take pictures, just try it.